Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with the Simon Says stamp October, yes, I said October, 2018 card kit. These are all the beautiful things that you got in this kit, and there's a lot of things that I enjoyed because I got to play with them, like the alcohol lift, of course alcohol inks, the foils. So let's get started. So the first thing that I'm going to do, this video is going to be set up just a little bit different. So I'm going to make my alcohol ink panels first. Instead of, doing one by one, we're going to do them all. So the Yubo paper that came in the kit, you got 3 sheets of it, and you got 3 colors of the alcohol inks. You got a blue, you got a yellow, and you got an orange. And of course, I don't have those colors in front of me right now, but that's okay. So they're primary colors, so you can mix them. Alcohol inks can be mixed together using your blending solution or each other. So for this one, I just used the sunset yellow and the stream. I believe those are the 2 colors there. I'll eventually reach and go get them. So I'm just having fun using the straw, using the blending solution, and just mixing all of this around. You get this real pretty shade of green when you mix these 2 together, and just letting it do its own thing. I'm good that I'm not covering the whole page. I just want to create these backgrounds. So we're going to set that one aside and let it dry. Adding some more blending solution to the top of this. I'm going to add the yellow, and I'm going to add now the orange. It's a deep orange. It's a dark orange. So when you mix these together, yes, you're going to get lighter shades of orange. You're going to get yellows and all of that. So you can create a really pretty sunset. Now, one of the things that I have noticed with the alcohol, that panel, the way that it was right there, I absolutely loved. They do keep moving. So it kind of smooths itself out. That's okay. So now I'm taking all 3 colors and I'm going to do a blend. So when the blue and the yellow go together, they're going to create that green. When the dark orange and the yellow go together, they're going to create a mid-orange. And that's what I was looking for as well. But just constantly adding these layers, trying to get some dots going on here, trying to get some what I'm calling puddles, outlines, because we're going to do that foil technique where we take our foil and place it on top of the alcohol panel wherever it's not dry. See how it keeps moving there? It just keeps blending. I wish it would stop. But if you also use your straw, I found when it's almost dry, you get those little bumpies. Yes, these are technical terms, but you get that scale look. So now we're going to dig into the foil. We got a whole pack there, and I'm using my Spellbinders tool-in-one with the brayer attachment that is also available, and I'm pushing the foil down onto each of the panels to see where it is tacky. It will pick up that foil, and you can see it's mainly on the edges, just the way that this panel merged itself and had the movement of the alcohol. But you can see just the beautiful foil. I did choose a copper for that one. For the next panel, I'm going to look at the red to the right. Well, no, wait a minute. No, sorry. Changed my mind. Now I'm pulling in the red on the orange and yellow panel. So again, I'm using my brayer because that helps to push it down. You always want to make sure the foil color side is up when you're doing this. If you do it the other way, it doesn't do anything. Ask me how I know. I do it every time. Yeah, I edited that out. So now I'm just using that red, and you can see it was only along the top where I was able to get that red foil attached. So now's where I'm taking this panel. I'm going to the right with the red. I was able to pick up little specks. In the middle, I am going to use the copper, and I'm also going to take that copper onto this other side as well. So I can have the two different tones of copper going on the panel. So this one actually picked up a lot of the foil. So many opportunities going on here. And we do have fun with this panel. So the brayer I found is really helpful. Just make sure you keep the plastic piece on the other end where the craft pick is, because it hurts when you stab yourself. It's just a little warning in case we do anything. All right, so now that we have our alcohol panels done, let's get into the cards. So let's look at card number 1. I took the blue and the green and I cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4, and we're going to play with the alcohol lift ink. And I've been wanting to play with this. So I think it's really cool that you can put an ink down, stamp. I also set my card panel up underneath it because I saw that once you do that, if you can immediately get that stamp onto something else, you're going to get that image onto your paper. So I just made sure that my card base, the inside, was down below where I was stamping on my alcohol panel. I then come in with a dry paper towel, and I'm just rubbing over the image, and you can really see the image just does, to me, it comes to life. Now, I also went over some of the copper foil that was on there, and it was fine. I didn't remove the copper foil, and it just went right over that image. I grabbed a piece of black cardstock from my stash, just a scrap. I keep a little box next to me, and I'm stamping the sentiment, sending hugs, and I used my copper embossing powder. I'm also going to use my Simon Says sentiment banner dies, just so that I can be straight, because I really struggle with that, and I'm just looking for the placement of where I want this sentiment to be. I didn't want to fishtail it, but I didn't want it to be a straight rectangle going across, so I do cut on an angle one of the edges. I'm going to prop that sentiment using some double-sided foam tape, trim off the edge, and that is our design panel. We are going to set this on my standard A2 side card base, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it is a top folding. That is usually the type of card base that I use. So if I don't mention it, that's the one that I'm using. I'm going to use my tape runner and place our panel right on the front, so that when we open this, I also made sure that my stamped image was where it was to sit. I'm going to use my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, and I pulled out my Studio Katya black gems, and I'm just going to scatter those throughout. Since my sentiment is on a black piece of paper, I just want that to go throughout this card. So it helps to pull that black along. What's nice with the Studio Katya's black gems, they come in different sizes within the pack. Excuse me. So for our second project, I pulled out my Desert Storm cardstock, and I'm going to be using the Simon Says, or no, I'm sorry, that is not my Desert Storm. This is actually Strathmore Mixed Media cardstock in toned brown or tan. I am using the Simon Says Barely Beige ink because it dries back awesomely. So we're going to do a no-line pencil coloring. Except for the pencils that I'm going to use, I'm actually playing with these for the first time. These are graphite pencils by Spectrum Noir, and they're called Color Tint. Now, what's great with the graphite, it's just that they are graphite pencils with a tint of color. So these colors are very muted, and I was very inspired. Now, I'm not going to keep all the coloring in, but I will keep a lot of it in here for specific flowers and images. There was a card, I think, that Sherry Carroll did, and it was shown on the inspirational sheet that you get with every one of their card kits, and I just loved the colors. And when I saw that, I knew I finally was going to be able to pull out my graphites, the color tints. Yes, I collect colored pencils. That's my medium of choice. I like to work with colored pencils most. So when I finally got to use these, I was very excited. They come with 2 sets available, and yes, I have both of them. So you can see how I did the greens. I have 2 different styles of greens going on, and now just using one pencil, okay, you can see that I'm getting 2 different tones, and then I can just come in with another shade just to accent that. Now, what's nice with the graphites, with these graphite pencils, you can actually use them like watercolor pencils as well. So you can either keep them dry the way that I'm using it, like we normally do with colored pencils, or you can use water. So you can come in with a paintbrush, you can come in with an aqua brush. If you just use, when you keep them dry like this, nothing's going to happen to them. They're not going to move or anything like that. It just gives you a subtle tint. To me, they're what I call heather tones. There's like a gray undertone, okay, graphite. There's like this gray undertone that comes in. So they're not bright, they're not vibrant. Now, if you do add water to them, it will intensify that tint, and it will make them more vibrant, but yet rich at the same time. So it's something to think about. Something I'll show these. You know, if you want to see what the graphites do with water, let me know, and we'll play around with it for you, and I'll be able to show it. But they were a lot of fun to play with, and I was very excited. Yes, there will be more coming into my collection. I grabbed my white gel pen, and I'm just placing accents around my piece, just to highlight some of the areas around the card. Now, keep in mind, one of the things that I did do, since I used the Barely Beige, this will dry back. So some of the flowers I outlined, some of the branches I did go over with the pencil. If you don't, that color literally disappears. It's really awesome. So that's why I always have Fog by Simon Says and Barely Beige in by Simon Says for these type of techniques when I do my colored pencils. I'm going to get my sentiment ready. I'm going to actually use my Gina K Charcoal Brown to stamp that. I didn't want to come in with a black. There was no black anywhere. So with that charcoal brown, it does dry to a nice soft brown. And since it had charcoal in it, you're looking at the graphites. So that's why I made those choices with those colors. I'm going to pull in my glossy accents just to add some drops around the card, just to have some faint hints of an embellishment. I did not want to add any glitter. I did not want to add any shimmer to this. I just wanted it to be basic. So for card number 3, I pulled out a piece of watercolor. This is my Canson XL watercolor. And I'm going to use this beautiful floral image again. I just had a lot of fun with it, trying to come up with it 3 different ways. And I'm going to use my VersaFine black ink. I'm using that because I'm going to do some watercoloring, or what I like to call drop color in. Because I'm not really watercoloring, I'm just dropping the colors in. But it is an effect that I really do like, and it is one that I gravitate to. After I have my image stamped, I'm going to use my clear embossing powder, because then this gives me the barriers when I do my drop watercoloring. And what I mean by that is I put water in a certain area, and then I literally just touch it and watch the color move. I could do that for hours. To me, it's mesmerizing. So I've pulled out some of my distress inks. I pulled out Aged Mahogany, Faded Jeans, Dusty Concord, Fossilized Amber, and Evergreen Bow. The Faded Jeans is going to come in a little bit. I don't have that one up on my craft mat. So you can see I'm just making the area wet with clear water, And then I'm just picking up the color and I'm dropping it in and I'm letting it do the work. I'm letting it move the way that it wants to move. If it covers the whole petal, that's fine. If it doesn't, that's fine as well. I chose dark, earthy colors, if you want to call them fall colors. I can mix. You can see with the fossilized amber and the aged mahogany, I'm going to mix those two colors together and let them do what they want to do. Here's where the faded jeans is going to come in. I figured it needed a pop of color. And now I'm actually putting water in that area and I'm going to lift it up. I shouldn't have covered that whole area, but that's okay. We can do that as much as it'll lift up. And I'm just going to drop some of the fossilized amber in there as well. I've got a splatter, so I'm going to splatter across, and I do know that some of the fossilized amber splatters are going into the image, and that's okay. I wanted that. And now I'm just helping it to mix over so that it's just not a dot. But I got it on some of the leaves, some of the purple, some of the blue. And I do like that look. Again, it's not an exact, just let it go. Now with the other colors that I wanted to splatter with, because I wanted to pull them all out, I am just pulling up a scrap and covering up the image. Okay, so note, when you're doing your splatters, you want to make sure that you do not have your pre-cut card bases fanned out in front of you. You're going to see why in a moment. So I chose the sentiment, happiest of birthdays to you. I'm going to use my anti-static tool because this may still be a little bit wet or damp, and I don't want the clear embossing powder to go in other areas. I use my VersaFine black, and then I heat set that. I just like to bend the card a little bit. My cards warp because I am impatient. So you saw, yes, I have splatters all over the place. See it? But that's okay. We're going to cover this up. This panel will cover the entire front of my standard A2 size card base, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, note to self, have the area clean or use a box. I was lazy to grab my box. I pulled out my iridescent sequins. I thought these were perfect for this card. I used my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to place drops around. And now I'm using my wax pencil to set my sequins in place. The wax pencil, I get those from Amazon, and you can get like a box. It's like a box of 10 for just under $10. So I will never run out. It's awesome. To me, I think they work the same way. So that is that card. I think it came out really pretty, earthy. So the last two cards are going to be really quick because we're going to go back to the panels that we made. So for the first one, I want 2 panels. When I saw this area of the alcohol ink with the foil, it reminded me of those, the art where the picture is split, where it was one piece and they, like cut in front of it or cut it in half and created the 2 panels. That's what I was doing here. I stamped the sentiment hello in between them, and I'm going to prop each of those panels up using my double-sided foam tape. So by creating alcohol panels, they do a lot of the work for you. The fun is creating them, see what you get, see what you can create, what develops as it moves, and you continue to build off of the color that's being created. But once you have those done, and again, all of the pieces that I have left, I do keep. I have a box just of, ink smushing panels and watercolor panels, all kinds of these different panels that I have created, whether it was sprayed, smushed, splattered, or painted on, or dropped onto. I keep them. And there's a lot of times where I just dig through them and create cards with them, and especially note cards. So for the next card, same thing. I'm grabbing the other side of this panel and I'm going to cut some strips from it. Now these strips are going to be 4 inches wide when they are finally set onto the base. Now I cut a panel 4 inches by 5 1/4 that these are going to be built upon. So I have different size strips, but I also wanted the different colors. So here I'm pulling in the blue and the yellow that I mixed and pulling in that panel and cutting along to get 2 strips of that. And each one's a different size. And I'm not too concerned about the size. The smallest one is a 1/2 inch, could be 3/4 of an inch, could be 5/8, could be 1 1/4 inches. I just trimmed down these strips, just making sure though that they were 4 inches wide, because that's what my panel was going to be. So that was the only dimension I worried about. Make sure your panel is straight on your when you're placing your panels, because my double-sided score tape is crooked because my panel's crooked. But we can fix that. So I'm setting my panels in place because I want to add 2 strips of foil. And I'm doing that using double-sided score tape or double-sided tape. You could have the scrapbook.com, you could have the Be Creative tape, whichever one. I've been using the scrapbook.com and really liking it. So once I have those set, I'm going to trim off the edges, and then I'm going to choose my 2 colors. So the bottom one, I want red. Just place your foil down and rub along it. You can use the brayer from the Spellbinders Tool-in-One. I couldn't find it. It's a process, people. Yes, there's a lot of processing going on this table. And then for the top, I chose the lime green. I thought it would be really cool. So now we're going to set the panels in place around that. Now here's where I'm realizing it's crooked. That's okay. Before I was going to have a space between the 2 foil lines. You would going to see the white. So you'd see the alcohol panel, white, foil strip, white, alcohol panel. So you can see how crooked it is. Here what I'm going to do is we're going to put the panels right on top of the foil strip. So it's actually going to straighten itself out. By putting the panels on straight, the foil's going to be straight. So we just are going to make that change. So again, we adapt. Thought we were going left, then we suddenly go right. And that's okay. That's the beauty of being creative. So once the panels are in place, we will choose our sentiment, and the sentiment that I chose is thinking of you. One of the things that I absolutely loved in this stamp set is the fonts and the sentiments. I am absolutely in love with them. I just think they're elegant, they're simple, but yet bold. I'm a huge fan. So the individual stamps, I hadn't used those. So I pulled out my Simon Says clear ink, which is the embossing ink or watermark ink, and that's exactly what I did to the inside of the card. I just used those single stamps and used the ink. I didn't emboss anything on it. I just let it be so that it would get darker and you would have the image there. So of course I always do this at the end of what my 5 cards 1 kit, just so that you can see them in real time. Look at the details and enjoy if you want to enjoy. But I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, though, any questions or comments, leave those down below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All of the products that I used will be listed down below in the video description. Of course, with all of this, there's so much that's pulled in. I know I will forget something. If I did, just let me know, and I will make sure that you get that link. But if you did like the video, make sure you do like and subscribe. I'd love to have you here as part of the group. We have a great time. Everybody helps each other. We give each other's tips. So hopefully we learn something along the way. I hope everyone's having a great day, enjoying the rest of your weekend. But always remember what is most important. Always be creative.